Good morning. Today, we start not with the world, but with our own minds. Before anything else, before checking messages, before letting the noise of life enter, we take a moment for ourselves. Each morning, we have a choice to be carried away by the chaos of life, or to stand firm, calm, and clear. To think clearly, we begin by asking ourselves, what is under my control today? Not what others do, not what the world throws at me, only what I can control, my thoughts, my actions, my choices. Every morning before the world begins to demand your attention, before the noise of messages, news, and obligations pulls at you, there is a small but powerful moment that belongs entirely to you. That moment is the pause. It seems small, almost insignificant, but it is the foundation of clarity. To pause means to stop rushing, to stop reacting before thinking, and to take the first step toward controlling your mind, instead of letting it be carried away by the chaos of life. Many people wake up and immediately dive into the current of daily demands. Their minds are filled with plans, worries, and distractions before they have even opened their eyes fully. In that instant, they are already behind, already responding to what is outside themselves instead of what is within. But when you pause, even for a few deep breaths, you reclaim that power. The pause is not just an absence of action, it is an act of presence. It is the recognition that you exist first, before everything else exists around you. In that stillness, you give yourself the chance to notice your own thoughts, your own feelings, and the state of your mind. Are you anxious? Are you tired? Are you carrying yesterday's troubles into today? The simple act of noticing is powerful. It allows you to separate what is in your control from what is not. You begin to see that much of the stress and confusion you feel comes not from reality itself, but from the immediate, uncontrolled reactions of your mind. By pausing, you create space between yourself and the automatic habits of thought that push you toward frustration, fear, or irritation. Breathing is the companion of the pause. When you take a slow, deliberate breath, you are signaling to your body and mind that this is a moment of calm, a moment of focus. Each inhale fills your lungs, and each exhale releases tension that has settled in your body, often without your notice. The breath becomes a bridge from distraction to clarity. In the simple rhythm of breathing, you anchor yourself in the present, and the mind, which is often caught in the past or the future, finds rest. It is in this rest that thinking clearly becomes possible. Without it, the mind moves like water in a storm, tossing between worries, obligations, and fleeting desires. With it, the mind becomes like a still lake, reflecting reality as it is, not as it is distorted by fear or impatience. To pause and breathe each morning is also an act of discipline. It is easy to rush, to grab the day without preparation, to let instinct guide every move. It takes effort, at first, to stop yourself, to hold back from the habitual rush. But discipline is the soil in which clarity grows. By making the pause a habit, you train your mind to slow down in the moments that matter, not just in the morning, but throughout the day. When a difficult choice appears, or when a challenge arises, the habit of pausing first gives you a foundation of calm. It reminds you that your first act does not need to be reaction, that clarity always comes before action, that a controlled mind is stronger than a hurried hand. The morning pause is also a reminder that life is not a race against time, but a practice in presence. You cannot control the world, you cannot stop events from unfolding, and you cannot dictate how others will act. But you can control this moment, this breath, this awareness. By claiming it, you claim yourself. Each day, by taking just a few minutes to pause and breathe, you create a habit of clarity, a habit of reflection, a habit of mastery over your own mind. This simple act, repeated every day, shapes the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you live. One of the most powerful habits you can form is the ability to separate what is under your control from what is not. From the moment you wake up, the world begins to pull you in every direction. There are events you cannot stop, words you cannot unsay, and actions of others you cannot change. The mind naturally wants to grab hold of these things, to worry about them, to plan against them, or to feel anger when they go wrong. But this is where suffering begins. Focusing on what is outside your control is like trying to steer the wind. The effort is wasted, and yet it leaves you frustrated, anxious, and distracted. Clarity comes when you turn your attention inward, to what belongs to you alone. Your thoughts, your decisions, your choices, and the way you act in each moment. Understanding what you can control is simple, but it requires practice. You can control your words and how you speak, your actions and how you respond, your habits and how you build them. You can control whether you allow anger or fear to take over, whether you act with patience or rush with impulse. These are the areas where your energy is not wasted, where effort becomes meaningful, and where progress is real. Everything else, from the opinions of others to the events of the day, exists beyond your power. To invest energy in those things is to chase shadows. You may try to change them, but the effort will always be incomplete, because the world does not bend to your wishes. Focusing on what you can control is also a way to protect your peace of mind. When you recognize that external events are not yours to command, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. If someone speaks harshly to you, you cannot control their words, but you can control your response. You can choose calm, understanding, or silence. You can refuse to let their anger shape your own mood. If circumstances are difficult, you cannot immediately change them, but you can choose how to face them. You can plan carefully, act wisely, and endure with patience. This distinction between what is yours to govern and what is not becomes a shield against frustration, disappointment, and resentment. It is not enough to merely understand this in theory. It must be practiced daily. Each morning, take a moment to remind yourself, what today is under my power. The answer will always point inward. Your own mind, your own choices, your own actions. Every task you undertake should be measured against this principle. When difficulties appear, ask, can I change this? If yes, act. If no, let it go. To act only where you have power is not laziness or avoidance. It is efficiency, clarity, and wisdom. By focusing your energy where it matters, you achieve results and maintain your equilibrium, while wasting energy on the uncontrollable leads only to exhaustion and regret. This focus also strengthens character. When you commit to directing your effort toward your own control, you build discipline, patience, and resilience. You no longer react blindly to the world. You act with intention. You no longer blame circumstances for your failures or successes. You understand the limits of your responsibility and embrace what is truly yours. Over time, this practice creates a mind that is steady and composed, able to face uncertainty with calm, able to endure hardship without despair, able to act rightly in the midst of chaos. Recognizing what is within your control is not a restriction, it is a liberation. It allows you to stop being pulled in endless directions by events, people, or situations. It allows you to preserve your energy, to focus on building your character, to act with purpose rather than reaction. By turning your attention inward, you gain clarity. You know where to place your effort and where to release concern. You do not waste thought on what cannot be changed, and you do not carry the burden of the world on your shoulders. Your life becomes simpler, more focused, and more peaceful, because the mind is no longer scattered, but trained to act only where it matters, where it is effective, where it can truly make a difference. Life is full of difficulties, obstacles, and unexpected events. Every day, something will test your patience, your strength, or your calm. Most people see these moments as problems, as burdens, as unfair interruptions to their plans. They react with frustration, complaint, or despair. But the Stoic mind sees things differently. Every challenge is not a punishment, it is a chance, a teacher, a doorway to growth. The world does not owe you ease, and expecting it to do so brings suffering. Instead, the world gives you obstacles, and within them lies the opportunity to strengthen your mind and character. When a challenge arises, the first step is to look at it clearly, without judgment. What is this situation? What part of it can I influence? What part is outside my control? Most of the difficulty in life comes not from the events themselves, but from the way we react to them. We magnify problems in our minds, imagining them worse than they are, or we cling to comfort and certainty that life will never provide. By seeing the situation clearly, without exaggeration, you create the space to act wisely. The obstacle itself contains the lesson, but only if you are willing to see it as such. Every difficulty has a hidden value. A rude person teaches patience and restraint. A failure teaches humility and careful reflection. A loss teaches endurance and acceptance. Even pain and discomfort, which the body and mind naturally resist, are opportunities to practice courage and self-control. When you meet these moments with awareness, you turn resistance into strength. You learn to act rather than react, to control your own mind rather than blame the world, to grow rather than shrink. Challenges are mirrors, showing the parts of your character that need attention and the parts that are already strong. This way of thinking changes everything about how life feels. Instead of dreading difficulties, you begin to see them as natural, necessary, and even welcome. You no longer waste energy wishing that life were easier or fairer. Instead, you focus on what the situation asks of you. If patience is needed, you practice patience. If courage is required, you summon courage. If wisdom is called for, you reflect and choose your actions carefully. Each challenge becomes a tool, each obstacle a lesson, each setback a step forward, because in the Stoic view, nothing is wasted. Even failure is a form of training for the mind. When challenges are approached this way, the mind becomes resilient. You are no longer fragile in the face of difficulty, no longer tossed by the opinions of others, no longer dependent on comfort and ease for happiness. Resilience grows quietly, steadily, like a tree whose roots dig deeper in the soil with every storm it endures. You realize that life is not about avoiding obstacles, but about learning to face them with skill, grace, and wisdom. Your measure is not the absence of difficulty, but how you respond to it. The moment you begin to see challenges as opportunities, your perception shifts. Life is no longer a series of unfair events to survive, but a workshop for the mind. Every setback, criticism, or hardship is a prompt to act with virtue. You notice impatience and replace it with calm. You notice anger and replace it with understanding. You notice fear and replace it with courage. You train your mind to respond, not react, to see clearly, not be blinded by frustration, to grow, not complain. This approach also frees you from resentment. When life tests you, you no longer ask, "Why me?" Instead, you ask, "What can I learn? How can I use this moment?" The answer is always within your reach, because growth is always possible when you face obstacles with the right mind. The world does not have to change, you change yourself. By seeing challenges as opportunities, every moment becomes a chance to strengthen your character, sharpen your judgment, and practice the virtues that lead to clarity, peace, and wisdom. Every morning brings a choice, not just what you will do, but who you will be. Life does not simply happen to you. Your character is shaped by the decisions you make and the habits you form. To live wisely, you must begin with intention. Setting your intentions means taking a moment to ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? This is not a question about what is convenient or easy, but about what is meaningful and true. The mind is powerful, and where it directs itself, energy flows. If you leave it unguided, it drifts, responding to impulses, desires, and distractions. But when you set it with purpose, it becomes a compass, guiding your actions, thoughts, and speech in harmony with reason. Setting your intentions is an act of awareness. It asks you to notice your strengths and weaknesses, your habits and tendencies, and the challenges you will face. If impatience arises easily, your intention might be patience. If fear dominates your thinking, your intention might be courage. If you are often distracted, your intention might be focus. By naming the qualities you wish to embody, you prepare your mind to recognize moments in which those qualities are needed. Without intention, the day sweeps by, and your actions are reactive, inconsistent, and sometimes regretful. With intention, each choice becomes deliberate, guided by a clear vision of who you wish to be. The power of intention is strengthened by simplicity. Do not overwhelm yourself with a long list of qualities or goals. Choose one or two virtues to focus on, and let them guide your decisions throughout the day. Simplicity makes the practice realistic and achievable. For example, if today you choose honesty, each action can be measured against that principle in conversation, in your work, in your interactions. Your mind constantly returns to this chosen virtue, and over time the habit strengthens. Each day of conscious intention is a small step in shaping your character, building a mind that is steady, disciplined, and resilient. Setting intentions also aligns your mind with what is under your control. You cannot control what others do, or how events unfold, but you can control who you are in response to them. The mind that starts the day with a clear vision of virtue is not tossed by misfortune, insult, or distraction. It moves with purpose, responding to circumstances with calm, reason, and clarity. By choosing the qualities you wish to embody, you create a standard against which every action can be measured, and you do not allow external forces to dictate your behavior or disturb your inner peace. Daily intention is a practice of reflection as well. In the quiet moments of the morning, you look inward and examine what kind of person you want to be. This requires honesty, courage, and self-awareness. You must recognize your weaknesses without judgment, seeing them simply as areas for improvement. You must also recognize your strengths, not as pride, but as tools to guide your actions. With this awareness, your intentions are grounded in reality, practical and achievable, not empty ideals. They become a map for navigating the day with purpose. Finally, setting intentions is not about perfection. You will not embody every virtue flawlessly, and moments of failure are inevitable. But the practice itself strengthens the mind. It trains attention, builds self-discipline, and encourages growth. Each day becomes an opportunity to act deliberately, to cultivate patience, courage, honesty, or any other virtue you choose. Each action becomes meaningful because it is guided by conscious intention, not random impulse or habit. The mind grows stronger and clearer, able to face difficulty with steadiness, able to act rightly in the small decisions that shape a life. Every day, life will present situations that test your composure. Someone may insult you, a plan may fail, or events may unfold in ways you do not expect. It is natural for the mind to react with anger, frustration, or fear. These emotions arise quickly and powerfully, like a storm in the body, urging you to act before thinking. Most people allow these reactions to guide them, and in doing so, they surrender their peace, their clarity, and their judgment. Responding with calm is not a weakness, but a strength. It is the practice of holding your mind steady, observing what is happening, and choosing your actions deliberately rather than being swept away by impulse. Calm begins with awareness. When anger or fear arises, do not try to suppress it immediately or pretend it does not exist. Notice it, name it. Recognize that it is a signal from the mind and body, not a command you must obey. Anger often tells you that your expectations were not met, that your sense of control has been challenged. Fear signals uncertainty, risk, or the unknown. These emotions are not enemies, they are indicators. The problem comes when we allow them to drive our behavior. Calm is the skill of observing the emotion without surrendering to it. Once you have recognized anger or fear, pause before you act. Take a deep breath, step back in your mind, and consider the situation. Ask yourself, is my reaction useful? Does it serve me or the situation? Does it reflect the person I want to be? When you respond impulsively, you often act in ways you later regret. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in fear, can damage relationships, disrupt plans, and disturb your inner peace. Calm allows you to respond in a way that aligns with reason and virtue, rather than with fleeting emotion. Responding with calm also requires remembering what is within your control. You cannot control the actions, words, or intentions of others, nor can you control the unpredictable nature of life. You can only control your own thoughts and actions. When you realize this, anger and fear lose much of their power. There is no need to be upset over what you cannot change. You can act where you have influence and release what lies beyond your control. This perspective does not make you passive, it makes you deliberate. You act with purpose, not with reaction. Calm is strengthened through daily practice. Each time you encounter a situation that triggers strong emotion, it is an opportunity to exercise patience, self-control, and clarity. Small moments accumulate into habit. When a person cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague is rude, when plans are disrupted, these are not simply annoyances, they are training for the mind. Each time you respond with calm instead of anger, you strengthen your ability to remain composed in more difficult situations. Over time, calm becomes natural, and your mind is no longer tossed by events outside your control. Calm is also connected to perspective. Most of the things that anger or frighten us are small in the scope of life. A single insult, a minor failure, a temporary inconvenience, these are not catastrophes, though the mind treats them as such. When you maintain calm, you see events as they truly are, not magnified by emotion. You recognize that the world is indifferent to your desires, and that suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from your judgment of them. By responding with calm, you separate yourself from unnecessary suffering and act from reason and virtue. Finally, calm is a reflection of inner strength. It demonstrates that you are not controlled by circumstance or emotion. It allows you to think clearly, make wise choices, and act in harmony with your values. It is a shield against impulsive mistakes, a tool for clear thinking, and a foundation for peace of mind. Responding with calm does not mean ignoring problems, avoiding conflict, or suppressing emotion. It means observing, reflecting, and choosing a course of action that serves wisdom rather than passion, reason rather than impulse, and clarity rather than chaos. Every day presents countless decisions, both big and small, that shape the course of your life. Some decisions seem obvious, others are difficult, and many are influenced by habit, emotion, or the expectations of others. To live with clarity, your actions must be guided not by impulse, desire, or fear, but by reason and virtue. Reason is the faculty that allows you to see things clearly, to understand what is true, to distinguish what is under your control from what is not, and to plan your actions wisely. Virtue is the moral compass that ensures your actions align with justice, honesty, courage, and self-discipline. When reason and virtue guide your choices, your life becomes coherent, your mind steady, and your character strong. Reason allows you to pause and reflect before acting. Most people react automatically to circumstances, driven by habit or emotion. Anger pushes them to speak harshly, fear drives them to avoid responsibility, and desire pulls them toward immediate pleasure. Acting without thought creates disorder, mistakes, and regret. By applying reason, you slow down the mind and examine the situation. You ask yourself, what is happening? What are my options? Which action will lead to the best outcome? Which action reflects who I want to be? Reason creates the space to act consciously rather than react blindly. Virtue provides the standard for these decisions. It is not enough to act wisely in a practical sense. The action must also be morally right. Virtue teaches you to act with honesty rather than deceit, with fairness rather than selfishness, with courage rather than cowardice, and with patience rather than impulsiveness. Reason without virtue can become cleverness used for selfish ends. Virtue without reason can become rigidity or dogma. Together, they ensure that your actions are both effective and noble, that your life is guided by wisdom and your conduct reflects integrity. When you let reason and virtue guide your actions, you free yourself from external distractions and emotional turmoil. Events will always be unpredictable, and people will act in ways you cannot control. Life will present hardships, insults, failures, and unexpected change. If you allow emotion or desire to control your behavior, you become a victim of circumstance. But if reason and virtue are your guide, your mind remains steady, and your choices are deliberate. You respond to challenges with clarity, to criticism with patience, to difficulty with courage. You are no longer tossed by every change in the world, but act from principles that are firm, internal, and reliable. This approach also simplifies life. When faced with a decision, instead of being confused by emotions, habits, or outside influence, you ask yourself, what is the rational choice? What is the virtuous choice? This framework provides clarity. You no longer waste energy chasing fleeting desires or reacting to insults. Each action becomes a reflection of your values, each choice a step in building your character. Life is no longer a series of random events to survive, but a practice of reasoned, principled living. Reason and virtue also strengthen over time through practice. Every choice made with careful thought and moral purpose trains the mind and character. Small daily decisions, how to speak, how to act, how to respond, accumulate into habit. Over time, you become someone whose default is rational and virtuous behavior, someone whose mind is clear even under pressure, someone whose character is respected and steady. The discipline to consistently apply reason and virtue is what separates a life lived reactively from a life lived intentionally, with clarity and purpose. Letting reason and virtue guide your actions does not mean ignoring the world or avoiding emotion. It means recognizing that the mind is strongest when it is deliberate, the heart is strongest when it is upright, and life is strongest when it is aligned with truth. Your emotions are tools, your desires are signals, but they must be measured against the standard of reason and virtue. When this is done, your actions are neither rash nor weak, but wise and strong, creating a life that is steady, meaningful, and aligned with your highest self. Worry and envy are two of the heaviest burdens the mind can carry. They consume energy, cloud judgment, and disturb inner peace, yet they often feel unavoidable. Worry focuses on the future, imagining problems that may never happen, amplifying fears, and creating stress before action is even necessary. Envy compares your life to the lives of others, stirring resentment, dissatisfaction, and distraction. Both pull the mind outward, away from what is under your control and toward imagined problems or what others have. A life dominated by worry or envy is fragmented, restless, and reactive. To live with clarity and calm, one must train the mind to release these habits, to focus on what truly matters, and to direct energy toward action and virtue. Worry is a misuse of imagination. The mind is capable of incredible foresight, problem solving, and planning, yet it often turns this gift against itself. When you worry, you imagine scenarios that may never come, painting them with the darkest colors, and then feel the stress of these imagined realities as if they are already happening. This is wasted energy, because the events are outside your control until they occur. Stoic thought teaches that only the present moment is truly yours. The past cannot be changed, the future is uncertain, and only your choices and actions in the present are under your control. Worry diverts attention from what is actionable now, creating mental chaos instead of productive focus. By training the mind to notice worry and release it, you free energy for deliberate thought, purposeful action, and peace of mind. Envy, though it feels outward, is equally destructive. When you compare yourself to others, you focus on what you lack instead of appreciating what you have. You judge your own life by someone else's achievements, wealth, status, or abilities, and this comparison generates frustration, resentment, and dissatisfaction. Envy creates a restless mind, never content, always chasing, always measuring. Yet life is not a competition. Each person has unique circumstances, challenges, and opportunities. Your energy is most effective when applied to your own growth, your own actions, and your own character. Envy distracts, delays progress, and undermines inner strength. By letting go of envy, you reclaim your focus and turn it towards self-improvement rather than futile comparison. Avoiding worry and envy requires awareness and choice. The moment you notice the mind drifting into these states, pause and reflect. Ask, is this thought useful? Does it help me act wisely? Does it reflect reality or imagination? Most of the time, the answer is no. Replace worry with planning and action within your control. Replace envy with gratitude and effort in your own path. By consciously redirecting the mind, you create habit, and over time, the tendency to worry or envy diminishes. The mind becomes clearer, more resilient, and more capable of facing challenges without being dragged into unnecessary turmoil. Time is finite, and mental energy is precious. Every thought wasted on fear, resentment, or comparison is a moment lost. Life unfolds in the present, and the quality of that life depends on how you use your attention. Worry and envy are distractions that steal this quality. The Stoic approach is to examine the mind continually, notice when it strays into useless emotion, and return to what matters: deliberate thought, purposeful action, virtue, and acceptance of what cannot be changed. By doing so, your life becomes focused, efficient, and peaceful. This practice also builds resilience. When challenges arise, you are less likely to panic or feel threatened because you have trained your mind not to amplify problems unnecessarily. When others succeed or gain advantage, you are less likely to feel jealous because your focus is on your own path and improvement. By avoiding worry and envy, you create a mind that is steady, clear, and capable of acting with reason, patience, and courage. Your energy is spent on what is meaningful, your thoughts are calm, and your life becomes a reflection of deliberate, thoughtful living rather than reactive, distracted existence. Life is unpredictable. Every day brings events that are beyond your control: sudden problems, difficult people, failures, delays, or unexpected change. Most minds react to these disturbances automatically, becoming anxious, frustrated, or upset. The world seems harsh, unfair, or chaotic, yet there is a way to live calmly, to preserve your clarity and composure, no matter what occurs, by maintaining inner peace. Inner peace is not a product of circumstance. It is a skill cultivated in the mind. It is the ability to remain steady, to respond with reason, and to act from virtue, even when the world around you is disorderly or hostile. Inner peace begins with understanding that the external world cannot dictate your mind. Events, other people's words, and the course of life are not under your control. You cannot prevent difficulties or dictate how others behave. Most suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from your judgment of them. When you allow external chaos to disturb your mind, you give your power away. The Stoic approach is to recognize what belongs to you, your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and to place your focus there. When the mind is directed inward, the storms of life lose their ability to sway you. You respond deliberately rather than react emotionally, and your inner world remains calm, even when the outer world is turbulent. Maintaining inner peace requires constant practice and awareness. The mind must be trained to notice when it drifts into agitation, fear, or irritation. These are natural reactions, but they do not need to control you. The moment you recognize rising tension, pause, breathe, and bring your attention back to reason and virtue. Ask yourself, what is under my control in this situation? How can I respond wisely? By repeatedly practicing this, the mind learns to separate emotional reaction from conscious choice. Over time, calmness becomes habitual, and you are no longer tossed by the events and opinions that would disturb a less disciplined mind. Inner peace is strengthened through reflection and perspective. Most disturbances are temporary, minor in the larger scope of life, and often less significant than they first appear. By stepping back mentally and considering the situation with clarity, you see that the world is not against you, it simply follows its natural course. Difficulties are part of life. People act according to their own understanding, and events unfold according to cause and effect. This perspective reduces the emotional weight of external chaos. What once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable, and the mind retains its composure. Calmness also allows effective action. When the mind is agitated, decisions are clouded, words are harsh, and judgment is impaired. Inner peace creates clarity. It allows you to assess situations logically, act with discernment, and respond in ways that are useful rather than reactive. Whether the challenge is a personal conflict, a professional problem, or a moment of misfortune, a peaceful mind is capable of thoughtful action, measured speech, and wise decisions. Calmness does not mean passivity. It means choosing deliberate action over impulsive reaction. Cultivating inner peace also builds resilience. Life will never be free from challenges, but the mind can be free from disruption. By maintaining calm, you are prepared for difficulty, disappointment, and conflict without being overwhelmed. You are able to endure hardship without panic, to face criticism without resentment, and to navigate uncertainty without fear. The habit of inner peace becomes a shield, protecting the mind from the endless fluctuations of external life. Ultimately, inner peace is the foundation of a fulfilled life. It is not dependent on wealth, comfort, or approval from others. It is the mind's ability to remain steady, to act according to reason and virtue, and to respond appropriately to the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. By cultivating this stability, you become the master of your own mind, and the chaos of life loses its power to disturb you. Your thoughts are clear, your actions deliberate, and your life is guided by calm purpose, rather than reactive emotion.